Arkansas Preps Weekly. Unnatural State Sports, your top source for the biggest news in high school sports across Arkansas.
And here we go.
What is up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on episode 76 of Arkansas Preps Weekly here on the Natural State Sports Network. My name's Kyle Sutherland. We'll be joined shortly here by the softball guru, Jared Hawthorn, and it is sad to say that this is the last week of the 2025 softball season, 2025 spring sports season in general, as we will conclude the sports year at the University of Central Arkansas in Conway this week for the Weekend of Champions. Of course, we will have soccer state champions crown along with baseball and softball. So we're going to talk about on this episode the, of course, regional tournament play or state tournament play, some of the highlights from that, and also get into some of the state championship previews. Before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends who make the show possible, starting with Athletic Field Service of Arkansas out of Sherwood. Whether infield renovation, lip removal and edging, or anything to do with a natural surface, any kind of maintenance that you need or anything like that, call Jeremy Rice and his crew at 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218. Also, Boom Boom Floor Shine, serving the entire Southwest Arkansas region. You need some TLC for your VCT, give them a call today, 870-833-0521. And then, of course, Chinook Cedary. Head over to ChinookCedary.com and check out all 8 flavors that they have, whether you like lemon pepper, jalapeno ranch barbecue, smokehouse barbecue. Those are 3 of my personal favorite, but you can check out any of those to see what fits you best. Use referral code NSS Media and get 10% off of any order, not just your first one, any order. Now we'll bring in Jared Hawthorn, repping the Arkansas Tech Golden Suns. I like it. Another program that has a lot more of our kids that Coach Jones has recruited. Of course, Sheridan alumna, Coach Jordan Jones, which Sheridan is one of the teams that will be playing in the 5A state championship this weekend, looking to defend their crown against Benton. So Jared, you continue to impress me, man. I think just about every week you have literally every single week you have had a different college. So you have stuck with your word and continue to rep these colleges.
Yeah, I'm I'm not sure what I'm going to do for next week. I don't have another set. I'm going to have to go beat the bushes to get one more set for next week. But yeah, Coach Jones does a great job at Arkansas Tech. Absolutely love when we get to interact with her and on the recruiting trail during the summer. She's just a lot of fun. Most of the time she's got her dog with her, and all the girls love to pet her dog and have fun and everything. And she does a really good job. She holds her kids to a very high standard, lots of accountability in that program. And she teaches things, in my opinion, the right way. Really has a great program there and does a great job. So definitely we're proud to get to rep Arkansas Tech and talk about Coach Jones. She's got a great staff, and they're doing it right up there. And we're glad to be able to send a few players that direction.
I love that you mentioned the dog. Mr. Wilson is his name that goes, and I've seen him featured on, it went viral a couple of years ago. He is actually listed on their staff as an emotional support dog. So really cool there. I think it was 2 years ago or so that went viral, on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. So yeah, really cool deal there. I mean, we all love dogs. Who doesn't? So that's
rarely
cool.
See her without him.
Yeah, that's how most people are. I mean, that's in today's age, especially. I mean, dogs are children, or pets in general, are children, and so that's really cool. So, well, as we said, this state championship week, for those that are not caught up, I can't imagine that you're not, but we'll of course start it off as we always do in Class 6A and work our way down. You know what? I messed up bad, Jared, and don't have the schedule in front of me. What is it? Is it 5A? So, oh crap! I'm gonna have to pull that schedule back up. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know 5A is one of the games on Thursday. I'll be on the call with that one on PBS, and then I'll do one on Friday and Saturday as well. But we'll make sure and get the schedule up. Actually, do you have it in front of you right now? I'll tell you what. Then go ahead and do that. That'll kind of start us off here as we get into 6A.
Yeah, I've managed to get my secretary to write down the matchups for me before we got going. The first one is the 22nd. I think that's Thursday. Taylor and Concord at 10 o'clock. And then you go to 5A, Sheridan versus Benton at 4 o'clock. And then you've got 4A, Pea Ridge and Bauxite on Friday at 1. Mayflower versus Harding Academy Friday at 7. And then Hackett versus Riverside Saturday at 10. And Bentonville versus Harbor Saturday at 4.
So the rematch of last year's 6A championship will get us finished off with the season and the slate of championships. So yeah, I should have known the rotation, because last year Taylor and Scranton went first on the last day for 1A, and then Sheridan and BB closed it out for 5A. So yeah, I should have known that rotation. But I'm glad you had that, so I didn't have to go. I believe I forgot to get that loaded up before we started here, but I didn't forget to make sure and get our notes for 6A or any of the notes for any of the other classifications. And Jared, this was 2 pitchers duels, which not incredibly shocking here, but you had Harbor 1-0 over Bryant, and then Bentonville 2-1 over Rogers in extra innings. And the first thing that I thought of is man, I mean, it's just such a tough break for Rogers. This is the 4th year in a row that the Lady Mounties have lost in the semifinals by a single run. They actually led 1-0 until the bottom of the 6th. Then Bentonville tied it. I believe it was actually on a pass ball that they tied it, and then it went into extras 1-1. But even though that's a negative stat there for the Rogers side, the positive side for Bentonville is I think they've won 6 state championships since 2016. I think they have been to the state championship every single year, maybe other than 2017, or maybe they lost in 2017. I know obviously in 23 when they fell to Bryant there in the semifinal round. But we'll start off with this game with Bentonville and Rogers, because, again, a pitcher's duel between you had really 4 great arms in this one. Of course, in the Harbor Bryant game, you had 2 great sophomore arms in CC Dots and Madeline Baldwin. And then in this one, of course, the Texas A&M commit Darby Burnett against Daylon Osborne, who is just a sophomore, so she's not committed yet, but she's going to go somewhere big. But you're not very shocked by either one of these low-scoring games. That, again, it was kind of more of a pitcher's battle here, a pitcher's duel. But with Bentonville and Rogers, 2 great 6A teams, Northwest Arkansas teams, whatever you want to call them, you had a feeling this was going to go down to the wire. The regular season, I know especially that second regular season matchup was a very close one between these 2 squads. But Bentonville, I know a lot of people were asking questions after their weekend in Central Arkansas. Didn't go so well when they finished up 1-2, losing to Benton and Bologna, and then beating Sheridan by a run. But I think that kind of woke the Tigers up a little bit. And, of course, also they're a little bit more rested now. And so, again, just pretty much what seems like a yearly thing, the Lady Tigers are, again, in the state championship looking for their 7th all-time state title.
Well, that was one thing. I didn't get to watch that game, and when I saw the score and then I went back and I flipped at the box score, it looked like the hits were really hard to come by. And, it was definitely a great pitching battle between them. And you're talking about, her going to Burnett going to Texas A&M. It got me thinking last night, how many kids out of Arkansas have gone to Power 4 schools, or it used to be Power 5, now Power 4 schools, just in the last few years? Because just last night I was looking, I was watching softball and watching the regional out of Eugene, Oregon, and you had Alyssa Houston pitching for Stanford, and I cannot pronounce her name, so I'm not going to try to, but a girl from Rogers, Arkansas pitching for Oregon last night. You had two kids out of the state of Arkansas pitching at Power 4 schools. And then we've got, 2 or 3 more going from our state going on to Power 4s this year. Just so much talent coming out of Arkansas, especially out of Northwest Arkansas. So just really impressed with seeing. And, Daylon Osborne is definitely going to be another kid that's going to have a strong option to go to a Power 4 school coming out of Northwest Arkansas. I'm crazy impressed with the amount of pitching talent coming out.
No question. I think it's Elise Sokolsky is how you pronounce it. Because for a second there, I was thinking of Ava Johnson that's at Boston now. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy amount of especially pitching talent that has come out of Rogers recently, and just Arkansas in general. I think I watched more softball. Yeah, I watched it literally on Sunday from about 1 when it tipped off kicked off whatever at 11. And then that final game, whenever Oregon walked off Stanford. But yeah, of course, Alyssa had that blister on her finger that she had to come out. And, you take a lot of pride when you see our kids on the big stage like this. And, there was some at this level in these games that we're talking about just right now that we're going to be watching, on weekends and on national TV and all that good stuff. But just an incredible performance really across the board, even on the losing side here, because these were very close games, as we've talked about. You look at the Harbor Bryant matchup, and when we did the preview show back in late February, usually 6A, just because there's there's not as much parity in it's kind of usually between about 4 or 5 teams that might be true state title contenders, maybe even a little bit less than that when you talk about actual state title contenders. But we had the top 3. Of course, Bentonville started off at 1, Harbor at 2. Those 2 teams stayed at 1 and 2 all season, and Rogers was number 3 there. The biggest question was, out of the Central, is it going to be Bryant or Cabot this year? And especially Bryant, we knew that they were going to be good again, but they maybe surpassed, maybe a spot or 2 of expect. I kind of maybe had them finishing around the 4. And you and I have talked a little bit about this even off the show about you definitely expect them to finish no worse than 5. I think that's definitely fair to say. But to me, they have proven they are a legit. I don't know how the final ranking is going to go. You and I will discuss that after the finals, but Bryant under Coach Ryan in his first year, in which I say his first year as head coach, but he was already an assistant with the team, so knew him well. But the job that Madeline Baldwin did in the circle there, that's not easy to take over for a great talent like Allie White that's now at Arkansas Tech, the shirt you're donning right now. But she did it admirably. And they had, Keston Semino is another sophomore that did great for them. The Easterwoods have been great for them for a while now. And Bryant, to me, again, we knew they were going to be good, but I think they surpassed just a little bit of the expectations that I personally had for them.
Yeah, I thought so too. I had Bryant, early in the preview, I had Bryant, in that 5 to 6 range. Couldn't really tell for sure, but that's what my initial thoughts were. A little bit of a rebuilding year. Well, they didn't really have a rebuilding year. They had just another really solid year. And can't say enough about Madeline Baldwin. What a great job she did for them in the circle to really step up and fill big shoes. And just there is, like you mentioned, there's a lot of talent there. So definitely, I look to see Bryant maybe be right back, possibly playing in either semifinals or state championship again next year. They're always a loaded school and a great program, and I expect them to do great things again next year after seeing what they did this year.
Looking at the final here, as we said, it's obviously a rematch of last year's that Bentonville won 1-0. And you look at the matchups this year, of course, Bentonville won both of them over Harbor 7-1 on March 11th and then 4-0 on April 17th. And I have no reason to believe that this is not going to be very similar. These teams both have some big bats. That's why they're in this position again. That's why they're consistently the top 2 teams in Arkansas, many would argue. But when you look at a Sierra Dots and you look at a Darby Burnett, Darby, as we said, going to Texas A&M, Sierra Dots is going to be, another highly recruited player once she's able to be, and when she's of age to be. But I could see this being another pitcher's duel. And Frank, selfishly, I wouldn't mind that, because everybody knows how I love pitcher's duels, but I could see this being another 1-0, 2-1, 3-1 type game, to where maybe late there, it's, both pitchers are dealing, and then a little bit later, somebody knocks it, whether it's, maybe a mistake from one team, or somebody's in scoring position, somebody knocks something into the gap. But I do feel like that this is going to be one of those. It's going to be extremely low scoring again, because that's typically how it is with both of these teams. And really, it could be which team makes the mistake first.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will be low scoring for a couple of different reasons. For one, you get everybody rested. They're not pitching the day before. Everybody has 2 to 3 days at least rest. So you have rested pitchers. You have outstanding defenses on both these teams. So you're gonna have the defensive factor going on the pitch. I think on the pitching and the defense, and then there's a lot of great hitters on both teams. But whether or not you can find a gap, or whether or not you can get a bunt down at the right time to move a runner, those are going to be the keys. And it's going to be, sometimes it's the luck of a bounce, whether or not a ball gets down, or you pop a bunt up, or, you know, you get, you get something that should be a foul ball out of play and somebody makes a play at the fence. We saw that a couple of times this last week, that people were making great plays on foul balls at the fence that they didn't get a second chance on. Some of those things are going to be the deciding factors in this game, because the pitching, I feel like the pitching and the defense is going to be there. The hitters, if they're able to hit the gaps and be able to get the things done that they need to. And I'll tell you something that we saw in some of these early games in the state tournament was base running. We saw a couple of base running mistakes that really hurt teams. So that's one thing, that if they run bases well, it might be the difference in the ballgame.
Yeah, no question. I mean, these are two obviously great teams, but you think about the coaches that they're led by. Ken Early going for his 7th all-time state champ, all at Bentonville, of course, and then Coach Osnes. I think he won 2 at Farmington, but he went to like 6 or something. Kind of just throwing numbers out here, but either way, 2 legends of the game, both over 6. I know last year, about mid-season, Coach Osnes went. He got his 600th win, so he's over 625 now. I don't know exactly what Kent Early is, but yeah, 2 of the biggest legends in the state. Fielding both 2 great teams on the field. And you think about legends in the state, you go down to 5A. 2 legendary programs that are competing against each other, Sheridan and Benton, and not entirely shocked that this is the final here. You think about it, Jared, our last 8 state champions in Class 5A, of course, minus the COVID season, all of our past 8 5A state champions have either been Sheridan or Benton. Sheridan, of course, 3-peated or 4-peated from 2006 to 2019. Then Benton won 3 straight from 2021 to 23. Sheridan wins it last year. So these have been the premier programs in Class 5A, a very loaded class. And you just look at the state tournament here. I got to my left. Just going through the bracket here, and it's kind of exactly what we thought. In the first round, you had that 2-0 finish between Maumelle and Greenwood, the 7-6 finish. Probably the best game to me. Van Buren and Bologna, if you like slugfest, I mean, that was your kind of game. 14-11, that Bologna took that one, but just even a lot of great first round matchups. And I walked into, so I went on Friday and got to catch a little bit. I caught the very end, so I caught the extra inning portion of Greene County Tech and BB. So I got to see that celebration from BB has gone pretty much viral, I think, on social media, at least viral within our softball community. Jordy Lefford, she was great. And really throughout this whole entire, she was crucial in a lot of low scoring games. And I mean, even in the loss to Sheridan, the 3-0 loss, her and Lexi, I thought both pitched really well. They just really struggled to get some offense going. But when you look at a Sheridan, we'll of course talk about Benton. I know we've talked a lot about them this year, that they have rightfully earned. They have been the most complete team when you look across the board. But the Sheridan squad a couple of weeks ago, they were in a little bit of a slump. The fight was still there. They just were trying to kind of figure out some things. They had some injuries in the circle, but you look at Cooper Terry and Chloe Clark and Cooper Terry, they have not allowed they didn't allow, I think it was a single earned run in the entire state tournament. Now, they did give up that run to Bologna, but I think it was unearned. But Coop had gotten her pitch count up quite a bit in that Bologna game, so Chloe came in and really took care of business. But talking to Coach Hoffman, he's very, very confident in what his team can do, especially with what they've overcome. You think about it from his first year. A lot of these seniors, of course, you don't have Mary Lim in the lineup that was lost for the season, but particularly this senior class, they have been through it, whether it's their own personal issues, whether it's stuff on the field, but they've also, like Benton have a lot of experience in the postseason, not just winning the state championship last year, but this group went as freshmen to the semifinals and the quarterfinals as sophomores. So just a lot of really experience between both of these two teams. I know Benton is still, pretty young with a lot of those kids that even played last year, but this Sheridan squad, look, like I said, I mean, it's fact that Benton has been the most complete team, but I think probably the biggest mistake that anybody can look at is because last year, look, you got to give respect to me, but I think that most people thought, okay, just nobody's probably going to stop this Sheridan team. And I think regardless, Callie Kilburn was pitching out of her mind. Coop was also pitching out of her mind. I mean, she was their number 2 and, played a lot of right field and was kind of their 3 or 4 hole hitter. But I really think probably the biggest mistake that anybody can make is just thinking that Benton is going to come in and roll over, because that's what they've done to roll over a team, because that's what they've done a lot this year. This Sheridan squad, they're really playing well and playing well at the right time.
Well, the one thing that I'll say, especially about Sheridan, is, man, you talk about a scrappy, gritty, just won't quit type of team. I mean, they've definitely had their issues with being, beat up and injured and, sick and all kinds of things going on within that team, plus having 2 or 3 key injuries before the season even started. But throughout the season, they have been really beat up and dealt with injuries and health issues and all kinds of stuff. But, man, they never quit. They just kept grinding and got enough wins to win the conference. And then, man, they kind of got on a roll there, like at the end of conference play and going into state tournament, they kind of started clicking really well again. And I think a little bit of it was getting some of them healthy again. Cooper Terry, for 2 years now, has put up insane numbers. I mean, absolutely insane numbers. I mean, almost, well below 1 ERA for like 2 whole seasons. Just crazy. And to do that with dealing with the health issues that she's dealt with over her career, I've known Cooper for a long time, and I know she's fought some pretty serious health issues from way back. And to fight the things that she's fought through and to put up the just crazy numbers that she has, it's just a testament to just the heart and the grit with that young lady. And you can't ask for a better young lady that loves everybody and wants the best for everybody. Chloe Clark has been unreal too through the state tournament. Chloe Clark's always been a really good ball player. We faced off with her 2 or 3 times in travel ball, and she is just one of those, especially her changeup. In the past when we've seen her in travel ball, her changeup will just chew you up. And she's done a great job and really had, to me, just a really outstanding state tournament looking at her numbers. Probably some of the best she's thrown all year was in the couple of games she threw in state tournament. She put up some really great numbers, and Sheridan's just managed to continue to be really good. And, the Sterritt sisters have been outstanding. Of course, when you flip over and you look at Benton is loaded. They've got great pitching, and then, Rexy Crane, I can't say enough about how well she's done throwing the ball and being their number 1. But then you've got, 2 other great arms behind her. Bella does a great job behind her. And their bats, I don't want to throw to them. When you start looking at their lineup, I sure don't want to throw to them. I don't want to have to call pitches against them, because they've got, not only do they have great hitters at the top, but they're, when you look at their box scores, a lot of times you see they're like 6, 7, 8, 9 hole hitters are doing a lot of damage. And it's like, man, if you, a lot of teams you can throw, try to pitch around the first 3 or 4 and hope to do better against the back half of the lineup. You can't do that against Benton. Benton's loaded from 1 through 9 they can hit. So there's no getting around somebody to get to someone else. You get around one good hitter to get to another good hitter when you face Benton. So
yeah, no, that's right. I got a chance to see Benton in both of those Bologna games, and that was 2 of the better games. And this is saying a lot, because they've had a lot of big time games, but that was probably 2 of the better games that they've played across the board. When you put everything together, as far as Rexy and Bella pitching, the defense, and they were barreling everything. They were just seeing beach balls all night. And I was talking to Chris Murphy, their assistant coach, that is their hitting coach as well. And I'm like, man, I mean, your bats have been great all year, but y'all are just seeing it exceptionally well tonight. And, that's what he said, man, I expected us to play, conference championship, expected us to play well, but yeah, that's pretty much what it was. We just saw it really well. And probably the thing that sticks out to me a lot, the amount of speed that is going to be on the field. And I have said for the last couple, and I don't know if Sheridan, maybe once, but I don't know if Sheridan and Benton have played each other that many times when you've had the Starretts on one side and then Cam Colclaser on the other side. I mean, that's probably, you've got, if not the three fastest, I don't want to, I'm hesitant to say you're going to have the three fastest girls because I haven't seen every girl in the state, but I do feel pretty safe in saying that when you think about those three that I just mentioned, I mean, that's some of the top speed in the state on the bases. And, you know, it doesn't stop with those two. And you think about a Lydia Bethards and like both the leadoff hitters here. Lydia Bethards, the 4-year starter at short or I guess she's been a 4-year starter, not always at short, I don't think. But either way, I mean, been a big-time contributor for this team, for this Lady Panther team. And she's had a massive year. I mean, every game that I think I've watched Benton 4 or 5 times this year, and she's had multiple hits, I think, in just about every game. And KB, that's the freshman, she's in the running for freshman of the year. I'll go ahead and say that. I mean, she is, regardless of who gives it to her. I mean, I'm just saying she's a finalist for it with the way that she has played this year, been extremely impressed. You know, just going down the line, I mentioned Cam there a second ago with Rexy Crane, her improvement from freshman to sophomore year, you know, going against the competition that she had. I mean, you got obviously in 6A that we just broke down some big time heavyweights there. But this one right here, and Benton beat Bentonville. Sheridan hung right in there with them, had a chance to win that game. You got some major heavy hitters in this one as well.
Well, that lineup from Benton is scary good, for sure. And like, you know, I was looking at a couple of the box scores the other day, and you know, AC Lackey hasn't been in every starting lineup for Benton, but man, when she was back in the other day, she came through huge. You know, I'm pretty sure she drove in 2 runs on one of those. She's one of those kids that I know can knock the cover off of the softball. And, you know, she's batting in the bottom half of Benton's order. I was like, you gotta be a little scared when you see kids that can hit the softball as hard as she hits the softball, and that's in the bottom half of your order. That's just not the kind of lineup that I want to pitch to. Benton's an outstanding program. They've been there year in, year out. Sheridan's an outstanding program. There was a lot of good programs in this 5A state tournament that, you know, they fought tooth and nail to get there, but these two managed to squeeze it out. That 5A Central, man, there's no doubt. We talked about it all year. That was a really, really tough conference, and it doesn't surprise me a bit that their number 1 is playing for a state championship.
Well, and speaking of the Central, that was one of the last notes that I was going to make here for 5A. That's, you know, I think probably I'm sure there was some of our viewers and listeners that maybe got a little tired of us pumping up the Central this year. And the ones that follow softball understand that was the deepest league in the state this year. And it really proved that, you know, the South, I thought that they had a pretty good shot. You know, I don't buy too much into the Whitehall score. You know, I had kind of heard a little bit through the grapevine that, you know, some of the girls were a little ill at going into to the state tournament. You know, I think somebody had told me that like Bethany Roper was really sick, and her mom actually had said something about that. I mean, that's why I don't mind talking about it now, because her mom mentioned something on Facebook. But I say that to say that I still think Benton would have won that game, but I think it probably would have been a little bit more competitive had we seen a fully healthy Whitehall, because Whitehall proved all year that, you know, they were certainly a force to be reckoned with, along with Sheridan there. Arkansas High, I know that you had talked a good bit about them this year, and you know, they really made a good run there, especially in the second half. They made it to the quarterfinals. But when you look at the Central, Jared, I mean, you had 3 of the 4 teams in the semifinal round, and you were 2 runs away essentially from having an all Central semifinal round.
I can't say enough about the 5A Central and how tough they were and how much they beat each other up all year. You know, BB was extremely good. Bologna was extremely good. Maumelle was extremely good. Benton was crazy good. You know, it's hard to say anything other than when you start looking at the quality of the teams that missed state tournament out of the Central, that no doubt would have been in state tournament in almost any other conference. You know, when you start talking about Sylvan Hills and Greenbrier, and you know, there's 2 or 3 teams that would have made state tournament in almost any other 5A conference in the state. out of the Central. That was a murderer's row for sure. And I'm gonna tell you, I was super impressed with BB. Just to say a little bit about him, and like you said, Jordy Lefford was really really good all season long, but especially down the stretch. Lexi Delaney's a great pitcher, and she pitched great all year. Those two, I said from the beginning all year, there's not very many 1-2 punches better than what those two were all season long. So, and Maumelle, you gotta give them their props. They did a great job, and they had great pitching. I think it was Ward and Gracie Keeling that both just pitched really well all year and gave Maumelle chances. And ultimately that's what it boiled down to is, they beat Arkansas High when Arkansas High just could not get the runs across. Macy Lee pitched really, really well in that game. And I think that was a 3-1 final on that one. Macy Lee held them down. I think she only allowed 1 or 2 earned runs out of the 3 runs, but they just couldn't produce any runs because Ward and Keeling, I think, just pitched a great game. Just held the runs down. So props to Maumelle too. A lot of great teams in 5A this year.
No question about it. Then heading on down to 4A, I want to start this by really because last year, kind of the darling of the 4A tournament was Star City. They had struggled a little bit. They'd been, had some good moments in the regular season, struggled a little down the stretch, and then they made a run and got to the semifinal round after I think they pitched shutouts over Gravette and Bauxite, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Bauxite is in the final this year with the 5-0 victory over Gosnell, but Gosnell was that team that surprised a lot of people. And Jared, we talked a good bit about the 4A, that competition there. It was a fun little race between Gosnell, Brooklyn, and Jonesboro West Side. And, throughout the season, you were kind of like, especially as we got closer to the end, you're like, okay, I think Brooklyn's probably going to take that next step. And then, of course, they got upset in the regionals by regionals by Southside. And Gosnell comes in and, their freshman pitcher, Avery McCann, they had a few. I know Tatum Rouse was one I heard a lot about. Layla Prude was another, kind of like that little trio that they had that really stepped up for this team. But when you think about Avery McCann, it's one thing to really dominate and do some things in the regular season. That's great and everything. But when you turn it up a notch the way that she did in the postseason, they really proved a lot. And look, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I mean, Gosnell had to prove some things because when they were in 3A, they had some great teams, but, they got bounced a couple of times as a 1 seed in regional play. So they had some things that they had to prove coming into 4A, and they did that. And that's the thing is, everything is earned, and they earned that. And to do that with a freshman pitcher, the way that she played, especially down the stretch, I kind of wanted to start off 4A by giving that due credit, because we talk about all the time that, obviously we're here to encourage kids, to promote them, but we're also going to shoot it straight. And that's kind of the position that I felt that this Gosnell team was and coming into the season was they had some things to prove, and people know who they are now. And I think that there is the best things as far as they're concerned, the best times are ahead of them.
Well, specifically on the Gosnell front, Avery McCann just, you can't say enough good things about her, especially as a freshman. Just she put up some crazy good numbers, and I didn't get a chance. I meant to write them down before we started, but I did gather up a few numbers on her, and her ERA for the season was down right at 1 for the entire season. I think she had 16 or 18 strikeouts in the state tournament. And they played some really good teams in the state tournament. And honestly, they played Bauxite really well compared to what most anybody else had been playing Bauxite. They played Bauxite tooth and nail. She has been absolutely just a dominant force for them. Avery pitched really, really well this year. She hit really well this year, which was another big thing, that she was a big bat in their lineup. I'm going to tell you, I don't know for sure how many seniors they have, but I'm not sure that Gosnell is not going to be a deep state tournament team for the next 2 to 3 years with her in the circle for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that is massive again, not just to to really have the emergence that she did this season, but to really put it on display in the post. And that's obviously going to instill a lot of confidence for her. Cause I mean, we talk about so many different times how much this game it's crucial. I mean, really to win a state championship, I mean, you've got to have a good pitcher. I mean, that's just all there is to it. To get that kind of confidence and really kind of just put Gosnell on the map the way that she kind of helped lead that team. I agree with you. A lot of good things in the future for them. But speaking of Bauxite, so I'll just go on record and say this. I was talking with Coach Rose, with Maddie early. So we're recording here on a Monday night. I was talking to her early this afternoon, just kind of going through, since I'm calling their game, was going through some stuff for state. And I was like, look, Maddie, I'm just going to be straight up with you. We've been high on y'all all year, maybe a little bit too high at times, because we still had them ranked pretty high when they were in their slump, because we knew what they had and what kind of team they could be. But nonetheless, I told her straight up, I said, these seniors, they've been to the semifinal round, they've been to the quarterfinal round. But if somebody was to tell me that Bauxite was going to end up in the state championship this year, I just am like, I know they got the talent, but I don't know right now. And here they are. And again, this is why I think every single year that you and I have done this, they've been, 1 year there, I think 23, they were preseason number 1. This year we had them preseason number 3. I don't think that they were anything less than 5 all year, but that's a big part of, because we know what this team can do when they want. I mean, I'll tell you, I certainly didn't see and if anybody, and I'm saying this kind of just jokey, but if anybody from Bauxite even told you that it was going to be 14-0 against Gentry, not to say that they weren't going to win the game, but 14-0. I mean, they came in here with authority. And the thing is too, is, MJ Birmingham has pitched a lot in her. So MJ, you think about this 4A state tournament. Obviously you had Avery as a freshman, but you've got, probably along with Ayla Buford and Claire Womack, in the lower classifications, Mackenzie Freeman. You've got some of the most tenured by far the most tenured pitchers in 4A. Because we'll talk about P Ridge and Monticello here in a second that have 2 4-year pitchers. But MJ has done a great job for them, both with her bat and in the circle. But they've also thrown Bianca Batistone, who threw in the her and MJ both threw in the Gosnell game. They also Kim Smith, when she's not playing infield, she'll pitch too. But that's kind of the thing too, is they've been able to rest MJ a little bit. Keep some gas in the tank for her. And Bianca has done a great job, filling in that role. So has Kim when she has come in. So I think one of the big game changers, I know they've kind of toyed around with their lineup and stuff like that some, and, some of the out in the field positions and stuff. But to me, with Bauxite, one of the keys was having pitching depth this year.
I agree with you 1,000% on that. In the past, MJ has battled some health issues and some migraines and some things like that that's knocked her out at certain times. And I think that I haven't got to talk to her mom recently to find out how that's going, but I think she's doing much better with that on that front. And, so I'm excited to see her healthy and really throwing as well as she's thrown. She's a great kid. But definitely having, 2 or 3 pitchers that could give her relief when she needed it, or to rest and have her fresh. They've done a great job in the circle this year. I think that's definitely the key that they had compared to the past couple of years, because they've always had, plenty of hitting. Hitting has never been an issue for Bauxite. They've always had a great lineup for 3, 4, 5 years now. They've had a strong lineup. They know how to hit. They're well coached. Pitching has been the key. If they were healthy and able to throw when they needed to throw, and not just health issues, but injuries too. They've had some actual injuries a couple of times along in the stretch when they were trying to make runs in regionals or state. But I really do think that you hit it right on the head with that one, that having pitching depth and being able to stay healthy down this final stretch is a little different this year than what they've had in the past. And they're a really good team. And I definitely, if anybody had told me that they were going to beat Gentry, 14-0, I'd have said, you're crazy. Gentry was a really good softball team. They gave everybody they played fits. They were outstanding from top to bottom. And I really don't know what happened in that game. It was just maybe one of them games that nothing could come together for them. but Gentry deserves a lot of props for being as good as they were all year. And Bauxite had just an outstanding game that game. Definitely, we start talking a little bit to flip over and talk a little bit about P Ridge. P Ridge has been outstanding for 2 or 3 years now, and of course we saw them there last year. We talk a lot about Emory Bolin. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm the most impressed with Emory Bolin this year that I've ever been, because she's battled some pretty serious stuff and missed some games this year and all that, but she's come back strong and she's doing well, and she's throwing the ball as well as I've ever seen her throw it. So really, really proud of Emory and what she's done. And I'm going to tell you, that's going to be one heck of a ball game, period, Bauxite.
Yeah, it is. And this was another pitcher's duel that we had in the P Ridge Monticello game that went extra innings, 1-0. And we talked about previously, if you're in a 1-0 ball game, you certainly love to have Emory on your side. But man, we really got to give a lot of credit to Elena Lyle too. She threw out of her mind. Statistically, was better than she was 8 innings. Both obviously went complete games, and Elena gave up 1 hit, walked 2, struck out 9. Bolin struck out 7, allowed 4 hits in 8 innings. And so look, we knew that these were 2 of the most dominant pitchers, not just in 4A, but just in Arkansas overall, and that certainly lived up to it. And, of course, P Ridge was able to get a run in the top of the 8th, and they ended up sealing the deal. And I look at them against Bauxite, or really just whoever they're playing in general. And this is a team that has been to 3 consecutive state finals, and they've been to 4 since 2021. So obviously Emory wasn't on that 2021 team, but I would be hard pressed to find a squad that is probably more hungry than they are, just because of the way, especially the way last year's final ended. Now, against Gravett in 2023, Jared Gravett was just the better team. I covered that one. I was there for it, and Gravett was just not really anybody was going to stop them last year. But, Farmington was up 6-0 on P Ridge, and then in the bottom of the 7th, they put up 5 runs, P Ridge did, and then dang near came back and won it. And I think that's kind of one thing that's actually something that Coach Josh Reynolds said to me last year. Essentially, we're ready to be the bridesmaid, not the bride, or ready to be the bride, not the bridesmaid anymore. And I think that's something that they are using as extra motivation. And that's kind of the big, will this be a low scoring game, or will Bauxite see beach balls? I doubt you're going to see beach balls against Emory Bolin, but you never know in this game how it could go. But I do see this probably as kind of like we were talking about in 6A. I could see this maybe not like a 2-1 game. I could see this maybe more of like a 5-3, 5-4 type of ball game, but I don't see it being very high scoring.
I think there's a lot of really good hitters on both these teams. I don't think it's going to be like a 1-0 or a 2-1 ball game. I do think you could easily see like a 4-3 or a 5-4 game in this one. I think it's going to be somewhat low scoring, but not way down there. There's just too many good hitters on both of these teams, I think, to hold it down to that 1-0 or that 2-1 kind of ball game. But I do absolutely believe that there's 2 really great pitchers pitching in this one, and I don't think they're going to give up a ton of hits or a ton of over the fence kind of balls. So I really do think you're hitting it pretty well tonight. I have to give you props, but I agree with you a lot tonight. You're probably looking at maybe a 4-3 or a 5-4 game, something like that. And to go back to the point about Elena Lyle, because she definitely deserves to be mentioned. Elena Lyle has been one of the most outstanding athletes in this state for 4 years now. She has been a great hitter. She has been a great pitcher. She's a great kid. She's headed to OBU in the fall, and I expect her to do nothing but big things there. Just an outstanding kid, and we probably haven't mentioned her enough this year. But she's a really good one, and I really fully expect her to go do great things at OBU. She pitched an exceptional game in that Monticello P Ridge matchup, and that game was not without controversy. There was, I know, at least 2 different pretty heavily discussed calls that could have been the difference in the ball game in that one. Not going to get into the quality of the umpiring or anything like that, or what could have happened there, but definitely that was a hard fought ball game between two really, really good programs, and P Ridge managed to squeak it out and get through that one. But I think we're gonna be in for a really fun game to watch for the state championship with P Ridge and Bauxite.
And I wanted to, before we head down to 3A, I do want to give some props to Monticello because, look, man, the way I described it to a parent was I've probably been pretty hard on Monticello over the past couple of years, and I don't know if pretty hard would be the best way to describe. I would probably say more so tough love, just because I think in the past 3 years they've won 70 ball. I mean, they've won a lot of games. I mean, a lot. I mean, they're 20 plus for the past 3 years. But before this season, the facts are that things just didn't go well once you got to the state tournament. In 2 years, they posted one run and things just didn't go well. And so I just wasn't really sure, what things were going to look like, especially with how we talked all season about how they dealt with some early season injuries and all those. And, that's a situation that what they had endured at the beginning, especially after all the success that they had over the past 2 years, it would be really easy to drop your heads and just be like, okay, what are we going to do now? But really what these kids did is they put their head down and they just went to work, and they proved a lot of people wrong. We said way back on the preview show that if they play up to their potential, if they, with all the experience that they have coming back, that they certainly can make a deep run. And that's exactly what they did. And we knew that, especially in the back half of the season, that they were a true state title contender. So, I want to definitely just tip my hat to what they did because, this 2025 class, I said it on the preview show, they're already going to be a team that is remembered in South Arkansas. People are going to remember them for years to come. But I think now with what they showed in the postseason, that especially this 2025 class with all, last year they broke the home run. This team broke the home run record for a single season. I think it was 54. So they've done a lot of great things. And so, I just wanted to make sure because I've given them a lot of tough love, but I also want to make sure I give them the love that they deserve because they had a great season and really showed a lot of fight amidst a bunch of adversity. So, heading on down to 3A, the Harding Academy Wildcats 7-2 over the Salem Greyhounds, and then Mayflower 8-3 over DeWitt. Two teams that we've had pretty much in our top two. Also, I think other than the preseason ranks, Mayflower and DeWitt have been at that 1-2 spot pretty much all season. And, Mayflower really flexed their muscle. The top of the lineup was with Kylie Branscombe, Melissa Hagans, Tori Barksdale was exceptional. There were two, all had multiple hits. Two others I know knocked multiple hits as well. And then you look over to that Harding Academy and Salem game. Kaysen Reeves was 4 for 4. Miley Harlow was 3 for 3. Ace Ellis struck out 9. Harding Academy coming into this year, I didn't have them as a state title contender, Jared, but certainly I think they started off at 5 or 6. So you certainly had a good feeling about they could possibly make a deep run, especially playing in the tough region that they do and then making it out of that. Just a really, I think if I'm not mistaken, both of these teams might be in the final. I'm pretty sure Harding Academy's in the final. I don't want to say that for sure, but this might be an appearance of first-time teams if I'm not mistaken here. But nonetheless, along with DeWitt, I would probably say in 3A, I mean, Harding Academy was one of the more consistent teams, but certainly give Salem their due props because we've talked about them this year because they have been really, really good. They've won a lot of ball games, and they kind of had some back and forth with Melbourne there in that 3A2 conference. But again, going back to strength of schedule, we just didn't really know how good because we like Callie Hall, some of these kids that we've talked about for years. We knew that they could make a run if they really, but we just didn't really know compared to the schedules that we had seen in Class 3A. I mean, frankly, it just wasn't really up to par. So we just had to wait until we got to the postseason. And like Gosnell did, I know I'm unpacking a lot here, with both of these semifinal games, but with Gosnell, like we talked about in 4A, they were kind of the darlings of that classification with what the run that they made. Salem, you certainly have to tip your hat to them as well.
Yeah, I'll start there with Salem. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'll eat the crow or whatever you want to call it. I did not expect Salem to be sitting in the semifinals. Just looking at the strength of schedule, I did think that Salem was a state tournament team, that they would get to state tournament. maybe win a game there. But I did not believe that they would get to the semifinals, that they would be this close and that they would play this well. And they beat some good teams to get there. So I'll be the first one when I'm wrong. I'll admit when I'm wrong. And Salem, to me, they definitely – I don't know if they overachieved or I just had the wrong expectations for them, but they did a great job to get there. I'll tell you, Harding Academy had a tough road when you look at who they played getting to state championship. You know, they played a really strong Falk team. They played a really strong Lamar team, and then they got Salem, you know, who was playing as well as anybody in the state at that time. So Harding Academy has thoroughly impressed me. Now, I did have Harding Academy as probably in that 4 to 5 range in 3A. I had them close, but maybe not playing for the state championship. I really expected them to be more like a quarterfinal to a semifinal team, maybe not get to the state championship. But I'm gonna tell you, with what I've seen out of the last half of the season, Harding Academy and Mayflower were the two best teams in the state in 3A down the stretch. Lamar was very good, but they were up and down. You could just never really get a read on Lamar. They would play just out of their minds one game and then kind of average another game and then out of their minds a game. So we could never really get a true read on Lamar. As good as they looked at times, they just weren't consistent enough. But Harding Academy played really well. And Mayflower has been exceptional all year. I'm going to tell you, when we get over to the conversation about Mayflower here, as good a hitting team as they are, as good as they are on defense and everything else, their pitching has been unreal. And Ruby Otts has played on a whole nother planet than everybody else, you know, almost all season, but especially through state tournament. Ruby Otts has been exceptional. I'm blown away by the numbers that she put up through state tournament. She has found something that she's always been a really, really good pitcher, but she found a whole nother level, and she played there, and that's been a really big part of Mayflower's run right there. Is they got just some of the most exceptional pitching that you could ask for in state tournament.
And I think looking at this game, because similar to like what we were, I guess we weren't really talking about earlier, what we will talk about, you look at like a Riverside team in 2A that's going to be in the state final. You look at a Hackett team that's going to be in the 2A state final. Like those two teams, a lot of those same kids that are playing now were thriving as freshmen and sophomores. And that's kind of what you had with Mayflower, you know, the Kylie Branscombs, the Alyssa Hagans, the Tori Barksdales, all those, Michael Duvall, like so many of these kids that we had, and I know I always miss one or two, but that we've talked about really since you and I started doing this when these kids were freshmen, and they've all made some deep runs. I think they've been in the semifinal round, the quarters. Last year, I think it was, they got beat by Lincoln in the first round, but otherwise they've made some pretty deep runs. So you've got a really kind of senior heavy team for them as seniors, juniors. And then you look over at Harding Academy and they're a little bit younger. You know, they've got a few freshmen that have been contributing. Ace is a junior. It's committed to UT Martin. So I think that's kind of what you're leaving. You got two great pitching. I mean, really, that's why they're at this spot. I mean, this is kind of like a cop-out response, but I mean, yeah, you've got two great pitching teams and two great hitting teams, and that's why they are at this position. So I think probably out of, you know, the other games that we talked, I could maybe see Sheridan, Benton be a little, I don't think we kind of talked about the final result in that one, but I could maybe see that one being a little bit higher scoring than 4A or 6A. This one I could actually see. You look at Mayflower and Hackett, what was that game, like 12-8 or something like that Mayflower won? I could see this being maybe a slugfest just because both of these two teams do hit really well. And I say that and it's probably going to be like a 2-1 ball game. But I do think this is a game where both teams could maybe get the barrel on a ball quite a few times.
Well, both of these teams are really good hitting teams. Both of these teams have really outstanding pitching. I don't know which storyline is going to take over, if it's going to be the hitting or the pitching. But several times with both of them, we've seen them score lots of runs. A lot of times the runs that are scored are unearned. Like the pitchers are throwing well, but there's been a mistake on defense or something like that. Because I noticed a couple of different games when they were a little higher scoring. most of the runs were unearned. So could easily be, in my opinion, like an 8-5 or a 9-6 ball game. But with both those pitchers, depending on what they do, they're capable of holding it down to 1-0 or 2-1. They're both really exceptional pitchers. I would say that with the lineups that they have, I really expect it to be more like an 8-5 type ball game, 8-6 type ball game. It'll be a really good ball game.
Then on down to 2A. One thing that stuck out to me in the quarterfinal round, 3 of the 4 matchups were shutouts. So you had Riverside 8-0 over Bigelow, Woodlawn 5-0 over Izard County, Tuckerman 5-3 over Quitman, which that was the one that wasn't a shutout, and then Hackett 10-0 over Desart. But the 4 teams that were in the semifinal round, Riverside, Woodlawn, Tuckerman, Hackett, I think that's probably, I got a little guest. Man, Jared's got the college gear and the pup. See, we love dogs here on Arkansas Preps Weekly. So, hey, we'll always love our canine furry guests.
Well, I guess Izzy, her name's Izzy. This is my wife's little dog. She wanted to be on the podcast. She came in here and started trying to climb up in my lap. So I figured at least give her a little hello airtime. So,
yeah, we love special.
Hi,
y'all. rough. We love special guests.
Yeah. So.
But the Riverside Woodlawn game. I mean, what another classic, Jared. We had a classic pitchers duel between Lily Faye McWhorter, the Arkansas signee, and Claire Womack, the Arkansas Tech signee, back in the Blazer Blast. I think Lily Faye struck out 18 in that game, and Claire struck out, it was double digits. I mean, just what you would expect. I think Woodlawn won that one like 2-0, but Riverside won this one 1-0. I mean, really just another incredible performance. Lily Faye had 18 strikeouts, and then Claire had 13. So as you would expect, a pitcher's duel in that one that Riverside was able to come out on top of. So now the Lady Rebels are in the state final round for the 3rd consecutive season. I mean, what a run by this senior class. And they're up against the defending 3A champs, the Hackett Lady Hornets. And when we found out that when the conferences got released back last spring or summer, whenever it was, and we found out that Hackett was going to be in 2A and had all that they had coming back, I think the automatic response for a lot of people was, we might as well just go ahead and give the trophy to Hackett. Now, look, I think that anybody would be pretty foolish to say that, I mean, Hackett is going to, Hackett's going to be really tough to slow down. Let's call that what it is. I mean, to say that, they're not the favorite, I'm not going to say that's foolish, but I mean, just look at the overall, what they've done all season. But also, too, I mean, I said on here, and I keep going back to the preview show as we get closer to the end here, the one team, if there's anybody in 2A that I think can pull it off, I do feel like it's going to be Riverside, just because of what this senior class has done, what this senior class has proven, being in they won it in 2023 in a pitcher's duel. They lost a pitcher's duel last year to Allison Edwards in Mansfield. We haven't been picking actual games, but, yes, I mean, I think when you look at everything, Hackett's probably the favorite here. But I'm not going to count out Riverside. I mean, again, they have shown a lot against upper classification. As we talked about so many different times, Claire Womack is a great pitcher. They've got great hitting. They've got 6 seniors that have really contributed throughout their entire career. But also on the other side, I mean, Hackett, they're a machine. I mean, they are a machine. Now, Tuckerman, I think that Tuckerman's time is coming. They are really young. They made the semifinal round this year. And look, that ball game was 1-1 until the bottom of the 5th. And then Hackett put a 4 spot up, and then they added 2 more in the 6th. And Mikey Freeman is just, I mean, the Freeman sisters, I mean, what exceptional talents they are. She was 4 for 4, 2 runs scored, 2 doubles. Also for Tuckerman, got to give a shout out to the freshman sensation, Briston Wheeler. She's been great all year. She was 2 for 4 with a home run in the game. But, Hackett's been number 1 all year. I was getting my teams mixed up here. Not Tuckerman. Riverside started off at number 2. They dropped a little bit when they had that rough start against really good competition, also trying to get really just kind of gelled from basketball season. But I do think that the best 2 teams from really when it was all said and done are in this round. We had great teams in the semifinal round, but I think this is probably, especially at the beginning of the season, what most people expected here. And, I don't know which way this one's going to, this one's really tough to call. Again, two really great hitting teams here. I could maybe see this being a pitcher's duel, possibly, but I feel like more so along the lines of the 3A game and this one, that this could be more, like you said, like a 8-6, more, not like extremely high scoring into the double digits, but also probably not a pitcher's duel.
Yeah, I don't see this one as a pitcher's duel. I think there's great pitching here for sure. Both of those are outstanding pitchers. Mackenzie Freeman and Claire Womack are outstanding pitchers, no doubt about it. But there's just a load of hitters on both these teams. And I really think that defenses and bats are going to decide this as much as pitching. I think both pitchers are going to be a big part to play in it. And if they pitch really well, they're going to give their defenses and their bats a chance to win. But I do think that defenses and hitting are going to make a huge difference in this ballgame. I think the defense was a huge factor in Riverside beating Woodlawn, and Lily Faye was, extremely good again, has been all year. I don't think she allowed an earned run all season, over there for Lily Faye. So Riverside did a great job. Claire pitched a great game, but her defense, from what I could tell, was really good in that game. To have her back and to help keep any of the Woodlawn people from getting all the way around and scoring, because, there was, I think, 7 hits in that game and a few walks. And so Woodlawn had their base runners, and Riverside still managed to keep them from getting across home plate. And everything that I was able to look at that, when I didn't get to watch it, but when I looked back at it and looked at the plays, it looked like the defense made several big plays to help, keep Woodlawn from scoring. Hackett is Hackett. They are a machine. Personally, I don't know why in the world they're in 2A softball, but it's crazy to think that they won 3A state last year and now playing in 2A. We've talked about they're going to be the one that's expected to win it until somebody proves it. Kind of like Taylor in 1A, they're the ones that are expected to win it until somebody proves that they can't. But Hackett, I think, is a really exceptional team. They've got great defense. They've got great hitting. They've got a really good pitcher, that has just performed for 4 years and put up some crazy career numbers and set several state records. So Hackett's going to be really tough to beat. Riverside and Woodlawn were the 2 teams that I gave any chance of beating Hackett this year, because I knew that Lily Faye could possibly beat them with her arm, and Woodlawn was good enough with the bats to support her a little bit. And I knew that Riverside had bats, defense, and Claire Womack. Those were the only 2 teams all year that I really felt like had a chance to beat Hackett for a chance to get into state championship or to beat them in the state championship. Well, those were the 2 playing each other to get to the state championship. And now, Riverside matched up with Hackett. Riverside, I do believe, has a chance to beat Hackett here, but they're going to have to be almost flawless. There can't be any mistakes. They've got to hit the ball, and Claire's going to have to throw the ball really well. And I think she will. I mean, she's always stepped up big in the big moments and performed on the biggest stages. So I think this could be a really good ball game, and probably, in my opinion, maybe one of those like 6-5 ball games.
And last but not least, in Class 1A, I'm going to go ahead. You talked about Eaton Crow a second ago, and I have Eaton Crow on Concord a little bit this year. But man, what they've been able to do this year, they took down Sacred Heart 7-0 in the semifinal round. And Lake and Cornett has been, over the past few years in 1A, obviously we talked about Ayla Buford, then Shirley and Viola had 2 really good ones last year, and Hunter Hutto and Haley Krotz. Her name went blank on me for a second. Haley Krotz. And I think probably now part of this is because, Concord is a smaller school. Some of those are harder to get info on sometimes, but I think that I definitely bought way too much into, them losing some of their girls going over to Westside, which they did. I mean, we've talked about that multiple times. They lost, 3 or 4 in particular who did some good things for multiple Greers Ferry Westside teams this year. But they did still have Lake and Cornett in the circle. They still had Lily Tharp and some of these other ones that have played for, and that's the thing too. If, and I've talked about it, if this is all hypothetical now, but if Concord had the teams that they had in the past, there's no telling. They still obviously have a chance because they're in this position, but there's no telling exactly what they could be. But nonetheless, the players that they have right now have lived up to that, and they've really proven a lot of people, including myself, wrong, because I think we had Concord at like 5 or 6. We had them kind of in the back end of the Super 7, and I mean Lakin she's had multiple double-digit strikeout games this year, and she had 3 of them in the state tournament. Just been exceptional for them. Now they've got they've obviously got a behemoth in front of them that we'll talk about the Taylor Scranton game here in just a second, but Concord, has won state championships. I think they've got one. I think they won it in 15, maybe. They've got one within the last decade. So maybe these girls on the team in particular right now have not had that experience, but I think probably, Concord was just a little bit slept on because, at the beginning of the season, obviously Taylor, Scranton, the 2 defending state finalists, and then Westside that had added a few players from a pretty solid season in 2024. So this Concord team definitely surpassed expectations and really have been extremely impressive at that.
Well, we talked about Concord a couple of times early in the show. I think preview show and maybe the second or third week we talked about Concord's looking, pretty decent. I kept looking at them as probably about the 5th or 6th best team in 1A. In my mind, that's kind of where they set, was about, 5 or so. But, Concord, especially in the circle, has been really good. And in 1A, if you've got pitching, you've got something. And, I mean, it's that in any classification. But in 1A especially, if you've got a really solid pitcher, you've got the chance to go win a lot of ball games. And they've done really well. They beat several good teams down the stretch to get to where they are. I do think they got a little bit of a favorable side of the bracket compared to some of the sluggers that were on the other side. But Concord has earned their chance to play for state championship. And I'm not going to say that it's a give-me game for Taylor. Because, Concord has proved that they can play with about anybody in 1A. And Taylor has proved that as good as they are beatable because they've almost been beat twice in the last week. So it could be one of those games that may shock the world. You never know. You're muted.
And I went through the entire show and almost went through flawless without muting myself. The Taylor Scranton game, I mean, never a doubt, right? I told you this, Jared, when we were talking earlier. Last year against Shirley, even though, that was a 1-0 game, and Shirley took Taylor to the wire. And, of course, obviously the Lady Tigers ended up coming on top of that. But I never really thought, okay, I still feel like they're going to do it. And I'm just going to be flat out honest. I thought, okay, this might be the year that they get taken out, before the state championship or before winning, an 8th consecutive, just because Scranton has been so good all year. They had just about everybody coming back from their team from the state final round last year against Taylor. But Ayla Buford happened. She was once again exceptional in a 9-inning game. Obviously went the distance, as she always does typically, gave up only 2 hits, the 1 run, struck out 9, but also went 2 for 4 and had a key RBI triple. And she ended the game with a strikeout looking. We've talked about, what she, and look, softball is obviously a team game, but there's just sometimes where you have to really single out one player. I mean, for what she has done in that circle since her freshman year, I don't care what happens on Thursday that they play. She's one of the, I understand that she might not be the dominant pitcher, maybe that Alyssa Houston and some of these others were. But when you talk about just pure talent, pure grit, statistics, accolades, she is one of the best that we have ever had come through Arkansas. And Taylor, obviously, they were dominant. They were a state championship program before they got her. But how key that she was in particular in this game. again, we'll go back to it, pitching, and everything else after that. I mean, it kind of just feeds off of, this as a coach and a pitcher's dad. I mean, the rest just kind of feeds off of that. And that's what this team, I mean, she put the team on her back, and the rest of them did what they had to do to get this done and get them to another state championship game.
Well, we've talked about Ayla Buford 1,000 times in the last 4 years, and deservedly so. I'll tell you the biggest factor about Ayla Buford that she's a great pitcher, she's a great hitter, she's a competitor. The kid hates to lose at anything. Doesn't matter if it's softball or anything. She hates to lose, and she's gonna find anything in every way she can to win a ball game, to win whatever she's doing. I don't care if you're, throwing rocks across the river. She wants to throw one further than you. She just hates to lose, and that's that little bit of something that you can't really coach. That you can't, you can't teach that. You can't pull it out of a kid if it's not there. She has that, and it's just ingrained in her that she is going to fight, scratch, claw, find some kind of way. She's a really incredible softball player. One of the best I've ever seen as a hitter, as a pitcher, any phase of the game. She's a really, really good softball player. But above that, she really, really hates to lose. And it's one of those things, But going to this game specifically with Scranton had their chances, man. They had their chances. They had two different chances to put runs across the board, and I thought they were going to get it done. I was like, man, this is the time that that Taylor's going to get knocked off. And even going back to the game before that, with Taylor and Westside, Westside had Taylor down and looked like they had them beat, and then Ayla Buford had, as she typically does. She came up with a huge hit in that game too. Just like she came up with the big triple in the Scranton game. It's hard to me. It's hard to even justify pitching to her sometimes. She's just an incredible hitter, and sometimes you can't pitch around her because of the situation. But sometimes I'm not sure that I just don't go, hey, go to first base because I'm not going to give you a chance to beat me. But she's a really good player. Scranton had an amazing season. I thought they had a chance to get it done there against Taylor. That was a instant classic. There's no doubt about it. Just a pure dogfight between the two of them. Delaney Maynor pitched out of her mind. I thought she did an exceptional job. The defenses were on full display. I don't know how many double plays were in that game, in that Scranton Taylor game, but there was at least 5 or 6 double plays in that game. Just exceptional defense. Timely hitting. How many times did you see kids put bunts down to keep a runner moving, things like that? You saw a little bit of all of it. You saw power hitting, you saw small ball, you saw great pitching, you saw great defense. Some of the most fun softball that I've watched in a really long time was watching on Game Changer that Scranton Taylor game. I'm looking forward to seeing this 1A final. If Taylor can get it done for a fourth year with Ayla, and I guess that's 8 overall, but 4 in a row with Ayla there, or if Concord can play Spoiler and find a way to get it done. Concord definitely has the talent, and you never know. Taylor may have spent all their wishes here with 2 comeback wins there. But it'll be a really fun game to see what happens there, and see how Legacy ends up. But Ayla Buford has absolutely put up crazy numbers for 4 years. Just really impressed with everything she's done. I've had the chance to coach her for a couple of years and have her on my travel team. And, you can't ask for a better character kid or a harder worker or somebody that hates to lose more than she does.
Yeah, and you touched on it. I mean, that was just a brutal slate that they had to go through. Of course, they had, they beat Jasper pretty good in the first round, but then that 8-7 game. I mean, Westside, I think you and I had talked about, I mean, they pretty much played like the Westside team that we knew they could be. And I mean, they were right there, a run away. And then, of course, as we talked about the Scranton matchup, I mean, that was just a brutal slate there. But talking about the game itself, I think it really just goes back to more so than regardless of what talent Taylor has on the field, regardless of what talent Concord has on the field, it's really about what a lot of other teams have struggled with, and that's, will the lights be too bright? It's a lot different. Yeah, it's one thing to play with the pressure of, okay, if we don't win, our season is over. But it's a whole other ball game when you're on statewide TV. You've got all this media around you. Everybody that likes softball in this state, all eyes are on you. And especially for 1A teams, that's not extremely common, just to be completely honest. So, not just 1A, the smaller classifications, that might not have streams or as much coverage or whatever the case may be. I think that's what it's really going to come down to. Kind of like what we talked about against Hackett. You're going to have to pretty much play a perfect game. That's obviously how it has to be against Taylor. You look at 2 years ago, Jared, Bradley, Jackie Kellner hit a 2-run, either a solo shot or a 2-run bomb to take a lead in the game. And that was the year that Taylor and Bradley had gone neck, and they had played each other 4 times. They had split that 2-2. Bradley was the first 1A team to beat Taylor in like 7 years or whatever it was, something crazy like that. So for me, more so than really what the score will be, I think that this is just about Concord staying cool, staying focused, and not worried about the outside noise, because that is how a lot of teams, and not to say that Taylor hasn't earned what they have in the state championship games, but I do think that is a big part of it. Is once you get to a certain point, it's just, Taylor has been there so many times, and that experience on top of the talent really starts to show.
Yeah, definitely. Taylor definitely has the big game experience. They've been there, done that. A bunch of these kids on this Taylor team have been there. Now there are some new ones, some young ones that are coming for the first time. And I'll say this about Taylor. They've got a lot of kids that have contributed this year and really come a long ways, but it may be a little bit of a passing of the torch of one sister to another, because I'm going to tell you, Adley Buford has played some really good ball. I think her first name's Callie McHenry.
Yeah, Callie.
Callie has played really good ball this year. I noticed she came up with a couple big hits through state tournament when it mattered. Adley came up with some big hits and batted like 500 state tournament. Aniston Nolte has been just really solid for them, and continue to be a big factor for them. There's a lot of experience with Taylor and a lot of time in the light and some good young talent there too. So they may be just still trying to find a way to be able to keep this ball rolling down the track for sure. But I do think that when it comes to the big lights and the big game experience, Taylor definitely has an edge there. But you never know. Concord could come in and ignore the noise and go right to work. So I do believe. I don't know that I think this could be a blowout one way or the other. I think this is going to be a hard fought ball game. I think that Taylor has had to fight and scratch their way through because they were on the tough side of the bracket. But Concord has played well and had great pitching. And I think that's going to continue for Concord. I think they're going to play well. They're going to have great pitching, and we'll just see if it's enough to overcome those Taylor bats.
And we'll find out this Thursday for 1A, and then, of course, we'll find out the other matchups by Saturday. We'll have all of our state champions and see what unfolds here. Jared, are you planning on – so I will for those that missed it, if you missed it at the top of the show, I'll be on the call for 4, 5, and 6A, so really excited. I got a chance to call 4A last year that obviously ended up being a great game, so excited to be at UCA for that. Are you going to make it up for any of them, or you just going to watch on TV?
Well, I've got to look at the schedule. I know I won't be able to make the Saturday games for sure because travel starts this weekend for us, and we're missing, a player or two that's going to be playing in state championships. But we're playing in Bossier City, Louisiana, Saturday and Sunday. So I definitely won't get to make it to any of them on Saturday in person. But I'm going to try to either be at or watch everything up until that point. and then I'm going to go back and watch the others, off of PBS's recordings. But definitely, I'm excited about it, and I'm gonna be keeping track.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're all excited, even though it is a bittersweet time. It's like you love this time of year because you got the best of the best playing against each other, but it also means that, the end is near for this. So really going to just try to soak in every moment here. I give for those that have followed, this is my last go around with like the podcast and stuff. I'll still be involved in high school sports a little bit here and there, but this will be my last go around with the pod. So I guess that'll, I don't know. I was thinking about it. I think we're actually at one show behind on softball and one on baseball. We might I'll go a little teaser here. Maybe at the, after we release the final rankings, we might do one more pod and kind of break that down. I was thinking about that. I'm like, we don't ever really, when we did the rankings through SB Live, I did more so with the, like each of the ranked teams, I would do like a quick blurb, and I say quick. Those blurbs I just stopped doing because, man, they took so much time. I mean, that was like a full Sunday in itself right there, and then probably even a little bit of a Saturday too. So that's kind of why we went to just like, the rankings by name only. So I don't know, maybe we might do one more. I don't want to say next week's going to be our last one for sure, because maybe we might do one more with the rank. I guess we kind of have to do it now since I'm putting it out there. But so yeah, we'll go on. We'll do two more shows. We'll break down the rankings once we release those. So we'll have one more next week recapping all the state championship games, and then we'll do that. I guess I'll tell Cabo we'll do that for baseball instead of ask him to do it. Just be like, hey, we got one more show to make up, so we'll do that. But again, thank you all so much. There's some of you that have been around all 4 years. Some of you, you might have kids come in as freshmen or sophomores or whatever that maybe have been around for a year or two or whatever it may be. But we certainly appreciate all the support. Thank you again to Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, Boom Boom Floor Shine, and Chinook Cedary for making everything possible. But yeah, those that are in I'll be again, of course, we call the games at the Ferris Center because there's not enough room to set up a TV broadcast in the press box. So I won't be at the field as much. But yeah, if you see me over there, definitely say hey. Got a chance to meet a lot of you last year from multiple different schools. It's really cool. Love to interact with you. So say hey if you see me. And other than that, looking forward to 6 great ball games. So we'll see you in Conway, and then we will see you next week. Take care.